Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the Debrief live on the Blood Red YouTube channel after Liverpool crash out of the Champions League, losing 1-0 to Real Madrid on the night and 6-2 on aggregate. As I said, everyone, welcome along. We are live, so make sure you drop us any thoughts you have in the comment section below. And if you've got any questions, we'll try and get to them if we have time. I'm Patrick Smith, and I'm joined by Liverpool.com editor Matt Addison. Matt, I mean, we can't really be surprised, can we? It was an almost impossible task. But it was a pretty uninspiring, I think is the word, evening from the Reds, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? I mean, it's another defeat really for Liverpool, but I think for me, it's exactly what I thought might be the case. I think I do think Liverpool gave it a bit of a go. I know there's been a fair bit of criticism on social media and on commentary on BT. They've just had a little bit of a discussion post-match then about, did Liverpool do enough? Were they able to take control of the game and try and have a sustained period of pressure? But it's Real Madrid. They're playing with a midfield of James Milner and Fabinho. They've not really been in perfect form. Obviously, the Manchester United game, they were there and they were explosive and scored every time they attacked. But generally speaking, I think this is kind of what we've come to expect. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me really was that Real Madrid just controlled things, didn't really let Liverpool do that. I think if Liverpool had have gone a goal up, we'd have seen a completely different Madrid team, and maybe they could have had 1, 2, maybe 3 more levels and more gears to go up. And I think if they needed to take their performance to another level, they could quite easily have done that. But they just kept Liverpool at arm's length. Obviously, we knew the first leg was what killed Liverpool really, to go 2 goals up so early and not at least take a draw. Even if it had been 2 each at Anfield, that would have been a disappointment considering the position that Liverpool were in. But it would have at least given them an opportunity in the second leg. I think it was always going to be impossible for them to come back, and I just get the feeling that obviously you don't want to lose 1-0, but even if Liverpool had gone 1 up, there were opportunities. If Salah had played a couple of passes, if Darwin Nunez's shot had gone in rather than been tipped around the post, I think even if Liverpool had gone a goal up, I think we probably would have still seen Madrid go up to another level, probably get a goal back. And we know that when teams attack Liverpool and do sustain that pressure, this version of Liverpool at the moment, particularly with the midfield injuries and all the absences that they've got in that position, yeah, it just never seemed likely. And it was a meek way of going out, but I think that was as much to do with, or probably a lot more to do with, the way that Real Madrid performed rather than an underperformance from Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does come to the midfield, unfortunately, as it has done so many times this season. Now, I don't want to discredit James Milner. I think he actually played pretty well on the night. And at 37 years old, what a servant he's been to the club. But it just shows the gap now that this Liverpool team are a shadow of what they were. They used to be a feared side around Europe. You see that Real Madrid midfield tonight, absolutely stacked. And they've invested. They've got Tchouaméni, Camavinga. I know Valverde played on the right wing. Whereas, as Summer says in our comments section here, midfield is needed, enough said. I mean, Matt, the hand was sort of forced with those two. Granted, there are lots of injuries and players missing tonight. But it's just, once again, the area where Liverpool clearly struggling, for the 100th time this season. We're having this conversation, aren't we?
Yeah, we said it the weekend, didn't we? The defeat there obviously comes back to the midfield tonight. It's the midfield again. I thought, Milner and Fabinho did pretty well. I think, again, it's one of those where they look quite good, but Real Madrid, if they needed to, could have really overwhelmed them and swarmed them, and they could have gone up another couple of levels. But I think they did play quite well. I think that the two of them in the centre, but it just didn't quite click in the attack. And it's not necessarily a case always that you put an extra attacking player in there and it suddenly all works and you get more opportunities. It just didn't quite work. It kind of needed the extra midfielder. I think it needed, a Thiago or maybe someone like a Jude Bellingham in the summer could be someone who could link those two areas together. It just looked a little bit like there was a 2 and a 4 and nothing in between. And I think Cody Gakpo did okay and kind of tried his best to link those two areas together, but it just looked a little bit disjointed. It didn't quite click, and I know a lot of people are disappointed about Darwin Nunez coming off when he did, which I kind of get to a certain extent. I think Diogo Jota and Nunez, though, were not particularly exciting. It wasn't like Liverpool were creating loads of chances and keeping Real Madrid under pressure. I don't think you're ever going to see Mohamed Salah taken off because you just never know when he's going to pop up with a goal. And it's tough because you look at some of the players that have come off the bench. You think of Oxlade-Chamberlain. You've not exactly got a huge amount of hope that he's going to pull something out. Again, did okay when he came on, but he's not someone that you're going to turn to and think can turn a game around at the Bernabeu when you're a goal down. But it's frustrating because we know what the problem is, and Liverpool can't do anything until the end of this season. They could have done something in January. They should have done something last summer in terms of the midfield, but we know that that's the case. We've said it enough times, and yeah, it's frustrating. I think they've been a little bit unfortunate as well that they've drawn Real Madrid. I think a lot of teams they would have been able to go on and beat, and ultimately it doesn't particularly matter if you don't win the competition. If you go out at this point, it's maybe not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, they will be back. It's just a case of getting through to the summer. Hopefully they can get in the top four, but regardless of that, it's nothing new. What we've seen tonight is that the midfield needs to strengthen, but we knew that already.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much shame, is there, going out to the holders and one of the probable favourites, given it's one of Liverpool's worst seasons in the past 5 or so years. But I mean, Matt, you mentioned there about the attack. We saw 4 in there tonight. I mean, a bit of a gung-ho formation. At Bournemouth as well, they switched to the 4 to try and get that goal. On both occasions, they failed to do so. Granted, Real Madrid's a tougher task to score against. No, I think, is that the final nail in the coffin for seeing 4 in attack? Because they seem to be a lot better in their build-up play with the 3 midfield, didn't they?
Yeah, I much prefer the 3 in terms of the balance. I think there will be times when they go with the 4. There's been a couple of occasions last season that people overlook. I think there was one in the FA Cup where they were a goal down. I can't remember who that was against, but they went 4 and it worked for them. But I think it just comes down to the personnel, really. I mean, whether Darwin Núñez goes and plays on the left in future, next season, how much will that be the case? I don't know. Obviously, Luis Diaz has got to come back, and Diogo Jota's not in the best of form. Mohamed Salah, I think, is one of those players that, if you put him in a team that's absolutely flying, he'll get you 40 goals in a season. But otherwise, it's a little bit of a struggle. And someone like Firmino that came on didn't exactly do a great deal in the game. So yeah, it's a little bit of an individual underperformance, and it's not really fair to judge the formation in that regard. I don't think. Maybe if you had Luis Diaz on the left hand side and Núñez through the middle rather than Diogo Jota, who's not scored for so long and didn't look particularly sharp, I think maybe that changes things. But I don't necessarily think it was a tactical thing that they thought we need to score 3, so let's go with 4 up front. I think it was just a case of, well, unless you go with Elliott in the midfield, there's not really any other options. Curtis Jones was on the bench, but obviously didn't come on and wouldn't exactly have been a favourite, I don't think, for a lot of people to have started that game. All the injuries that they've got, it kind of just forced their hand a little bit. And we have talked about a 4 forward system throughout this season, but it's not necessarily because they've got 4 forwards who are absolutely on fire. It's just more a case of, well, they haven't quite got enough midfielders, so you might as well try it. So
yeah. Or no midfielders.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just another thing. I could probably answer every single question tonight with they just don't have enough midfielders, and ultimately that's what it comes back to.
I mean, yeah, let's move away then from the team's performance, but the wider picture, Matt. So it's going to be a silverware-less season for Liverpool. There's a very probable chance now they won't be inside the top 4. What does that mean for them in the summer? Because, there's concerns now around the recruitment. If they're not in the Champions League, they're a side on the decline. That could pose real problems for them in the summer market, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it can't change anything. I think they still need to do exactly the same, regardless of whether they get in the top 4 or not. I think there is still an opportunity. They've still got to play Tottenham at Anfield. They've still got enough matches to be able to turn things around. And I think it would be, a little bit premature to start writing them off in terms of that Champions League race, just because, the other teams, we know Tottenham have had a decent result this week, but probably that means next week they won't. They are so inconsistent, and there is still an opportunity. I think, Liverpool, obviously the game against Bournemouth is just proof that they are inconsistent themselves, but I think they've got enough games over the next sort of couple of months that you can kind of see a way back. I think it'd be interesting now. Who can they get back? Will Thiago be back after the international break? Will Luis Diaz be ready to come on and play? I would think probably off the bench rather than from the start in the 3 games in a week of Manchester City and Chelsea away and then Arsenal at Anfield. But even just to have him in the squad and to have him for 15, 20 minutes off the bench in those matches could be important. So I just think, there's still enough time for Liverpool to kind of make a success of what they've got left. But ultimately, yes, you're right. It's a disappointing season. They're not going to win a trophy. They've not been involved in a title race. And, for all of these players, for Jurgen Klopp as well, it's, a season missed, really, purely because they didn't have enough midfielders. They didn't invest enough and didn't sort of notice quickly or quick enough that sort of area was going to become a real problem. They did obviously try and go and get Tchouaméni last summer, but didn't happen. Didn't get anybody else, and I think it's a real shame, really, because, like I say, there's only so many years of Jurgen Klopp being at Liverpool. There's been the COVID season where they had no centre backs and get themselves into the top 4 or the top 3 as it was in the end. But I think this is another one of those seasons where it's just a case now, even if they come fourth, which you'd absolutely take, obviously, at this point in time, even if they come fourth, I think we'll look back and think, well, if they'd have just done a little bit more last summer, maybe they'd have given themselves a chance in one of the cups. Maybe they'd have been in a title race. I think
City not being in the best of form, maybe even the title race could have been on.
Yeah, certainly you'd back them against that Arsenal team. And even in the Champions League, I think Liverpool, Real Madrid over 2 legs last season would have been interesting. Obviously, this season was very, very different. So it's a bit of a wasted season, but there's still however many, is it 12 Premier League games to go or whatever it is. However many there are left, I think it's just a case now of making sure that you achieve that minimal aim, get to the summer and hopefully can reset and forget that this season happened. But it is a waste of a season. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, and of course, when people talk about the recruitment, I think most supporters are anxious about, the Jude Bellingham signing. Why wouldn't he want to play in that Liverpool midfield tonight over the Real Madrid way? You might not even get a game because there's so many of them. Just to end, Matt, as well, Real Madrid playing You'll Never Walk Alone at the end of the Bernabeu. It's been a bit of a controversial topic on social media. Do you think it's a classy touch, or do you think it's a bit of a pitiful dig, as some supporters are saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I thought that was a bit of a weird one. I think the TV cameras picked up the Liverpool fans singing along with it, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a nice moment, but I don't know. To be honest, I wouldn't be that bothered either way. I know people get very annoyed by these things, but if it was a little bit of a dig, then fair play to them. They just won 6-2, so it's one of them.
But we'll leave that to your imagination and viewers to make your minds up on that one. But anyway, we'll wrap up the debrief there. As I said, Liverpool unfortunately out of the Champions League, and it looks like it may well be. So, it's definitely going to be a silverware this season. But thank you so much for joining myself, Patrick Smith, and Matt Addison on the debrief. Make sure you're subscribed and stick around on the Blood Red channel, because we'll bring you Jurgen Klopp's press conference as soon as we have that. But for now, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again soon.